Welcome to the Connected Woman podcast.
What if the self trust, clarity, and safety you have been searching outside of you for so long in your life have been quietly waiting within? And all that it takes is for you to learn to sit quietly with yourself, is for you to learn to sit long enough with yourself without judgment, to hear it, to feel it, to embody it. In today's episode, I want to share with you the 7 life changing lessons that meditation and mindfulness taught me. This is now part of who I am. Those lessons were catalysts for my personal growth, my inner work, and my self connection. But before I share these 7 lessons with you, I want to clarify something that I think many people have a little bit wrong, and is the difference between meditation and mindfulness meditation. So, mindfulness is the awareness, okay? Is the awareness of the present moment. Is that a state of awareness in the present moment without judgment. Meditation is the training, is the practice. Meditation needs a space and a time, right? In order for you to meditate, you have to find a space, whatever is that space for you, and a time during the day, whether it's something that you do daily or sometimes. But in order for you to sit in meditation, you need to find that space in the time. When you are practicing mindfulness, when you are becoming and being a mindful person, all that are you doing is that you are in a state of awareness as much as possible. And mindfulness meditation is the embodiment of that state of awareness without judgment. So here are the 7 lessons I learned through mindfulness and meditation. The first one was learning to be with myself, like truly finding a time and a space to sit with myself. And I know this sounds like, oh, that's not a problem. Sitting with yourself for 3 minutes at a time every single day. What is the problem? Well, when you are a person who is used to just do things and being all the times in the doing, so that you don't have to feel your emotions, so that you don't have to feel your feelings, so that you don't have to deal with parts of you that you don't want to deal. And we all have this. We all, whether we are aware or not, we all have parts of ourselves that we don't want to see. So for me at the beginning, the practice of meditation, the sitting part, was so hard, and it became harder every time something was going on in my life. Why? Because I needed to sit with something uncomfortable I was feeling in my body, which I didn't know back then what was that. Today I know that that was the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, and the past memories that I didn't want to deal with because they were too painful. But obviously, I didn't know that back then. And at the beginning of my journey with meditation, I learned Zen meditation. So I was going twice per week to meditate with a group for like 30 minutes. Now, we weren't meditating 30 minutes, we were beginners. But 30 minutes was also the explanation and going through Zen laws and things like that. And I was at home meditating 3 minutes every single day, only 3 minutes. Today, I can sit in meditation for 20 minutes. Back then, if you told me you one day will be sitting 20 minutes in meditation, I will tell you, you are totally out of your mind. I'm not going to do that. I can't sit 3 minutes. Now, what that taught me was learning the importance of finding the space to check in with myself. I'm living this life in autopilot without knowing what I am feeling, without knowing how I am today. And that obviously became after also part of I became a more patience person and learning to understand others. I mean, there is a whole world that opens to you when you start practicing mindfulness and meditation. The second lesson was learning to play with my thoughts and my emotions. Yes, because throughout the practice, and this is was far after I started learning meditation, because to be honest, it took me 3 years for me to start truly meditating for 15 minutes without feeling uncomfortable, without wanting to stand up, without, without like getting stuck on my thoughts. And with the time, I wanted to understand what was all the things that I was reading and learning also about your thoughts. Like you can play with your thought, you can play with your emotions as you meditate and just be an observer of those. So I wanted to do that and I wanted to investigate what was. So at some point in my practice, I start really paying attention to my thoughts. And I could experience during meditation how you can go from one thought to another, from a sad thought to a happy thought, from a hard emotion that maybe make you cry through meditation to a happy emotion that make you truly laugh. And that is when you start to learn how to detach yourself from your thoughts and your emotions, because that right there is what make so many times problems and issues in our life. When something happened from the outside and then we get caught in our thoughts and in our emotions and in our feelings, and we make of that a whole story, and then we behave that story that we're making inside of our own being. So going back to the meditation part, I was sitting and thinking, for example, I remember having a thought when I was like about 10 years old and my mom was very angry on me and I was crying. It was painful. I remember that to the day of today. So, in that particular meditation, I could see how my thoughts, I had the thought and then just alone automatically to start creating more and more stories about the same situation, and I start feeling pain. I start crying during my meditation. But because I was aware and present, I knew I was practicing something and I knew I was curious about discovering how is that all thing about being an observer of your thoughts and emotions. So I decided to change the thought for a happy thought that I literally have a few days ago with a friend. And it was so funny, like so funny, that I start remembering that moment with my friend and I start laughing during my meditation. So I was in a thought that was painful and I cry, and then I moved to another thought that was so happy and funny that I couldn't help but laughing. So what this taught me, that life, first off, that you don't have to take life so serious and hard and heavy, okay? And that my thoughts and my emotions, they are not controlling me, okay? I am the one who can observe them and anchor myself from within and say, okay, yeah, I having this thought, is bringing up an emotion, but I don't need to take an action. I don't need to do nothing about it. I can switch that to another thought, to another emotion, or even better, sometimes to neutrality. And the third lesson was becoming a witness of my thoughts. And again, remember, this didn't came easy. It wasn't after a year or two or three of my meditation and mindfulness practices. It took years for me to truly embody becoming a witness of my thoughts. So now, when I am in an interaction with someone, or when I am having a conversation, maybe a hard conversation with someone, or maybe when I'm sitting and reading or doing something by myself, if I have a thought that is trying to make a story and then I start to feel uncomfortable, I just take a little tiny pause and I know here is a thought. And then I imagine looking at the thought as when you're sitting by a river and then the current is going like this, right? And then here is the thought. Okay, bye, see you later. And that's it. And just anchor myself back where I was. what happened to all of us is that we have a thought, and if the thought is enough substantial and strong, right, depends on what is the thought about, we will, without knowing, we will stay attached to the thought, and then what happened becomes the emotion, and it depends what kind of emotion is. So learning to become a witness of your thoughts is a huge thing you truly can do for yourself. And then now the fourth lesson was learning to be with physical pain. And this also I learned through mindfulness and mindfulness meditation. I learned to be with a back pain. I suffer from chronic back pain. And when all this was kind of, I discovered all this a few years ago, the pain was pretty intense and sharp and hard, and I was taking all kind of pills and doing all kind of exercises, but nothing will take it away. So I read a book that Dr. John Kabat-Zinn wrote, and is a book that is used for his mindfulness-based stress reduction in his clinic for pain. And I read it, and I told myself, I know already, I am a practitioner of mindfulness and a practitioner of meditation. I am going to help myself with this. So I learned to meditate and I learned to practice mindfulness by being aware of my pain, okay? Without judgment to that pain, in what that means, without saying what I have this, what happened to me. If I was maybe doing X and Y in my past, maybe I won't have this, or stopping feeling like, oh, poor me with this pain, but just truly feeling it, sharp and painful, without judgment, anchoring myself on my breath, noticing the pain, and almost again like becoming an observer of the pain you are feeling. And this is no easy obviously to do, but when you have practiced meditation and mindfulness before for a long time, this practice of truly feeling the pain without letting yourself get into the suffering part, it was it was really the medicine that helped me go through the moments where my back was truly hurting. It was using mindfulness for physical pain. Now, if you haven't practiced yet meditation and mindfulness, I know that this can sound like, what is she talking about? But if you are a mindfulness practitioner and a meditation practitioner, I know you understand that this is possible to do. It is hard, but it's possible. And for me, this was also a huge thing because I was really suffering from these pains. And so, also, bringing my thoughts to a part where I truly could become the observer of that pain. And yes, there were days that were harder than others, but I definitely did not let myself being consumed by the heart pain I was feeling. So that was what that taught me, that I can use that mindfulness part, that awareness without judgment to help myself throughout the pain. The fifth lesson was, you can control everything. And this is something we all fall short in, and is that we think that we can control everything in our life, right? Like, in one hand, we, when somebody asks us, we say no. Obviously, I know I can't control everything, but something inside of you, right, tells you, yeah, try to do this, try to do this, try to do this, maybe it's going to be better. So I learned that I truly couldn't control everything. Like, I truly embody and understand that I couldn't control everything in my life, but only my thoughts, my attitude towards life, towards myself, towards others, my feelings, my emotions, and my behavior. And that again took practice and took years and took sitting again and again and befriending myself and journaling and keep doing my inner work. But this was through mindfulness and through meditation that I learned this lesson. I truly understood. So when something happened now in my life, that let's say I am working in a project or something that I really want and need, and it doesn't work. Yes, I still be a human and I get frustrated and sometimes I get angry, but I don't let that consume me. I don't let that, because I know that there are another external things outside of me that I couldn't control. So I just could not do it because it wasn't in my control. So instead of being consumed by why I couldn't or why they couldn't, I just let it go. Seriously, life is too precious to get stuck in that imaginative thought that we can't control everything. Number 6 was again experiencing my emotions. And what I mean by that, I was a person who will avoid to experience the hard emotions, maybe emotions I needed to deal with, because the more I pushed them down, the more they were allowed in my behavior and in my thoughts. So through meditation and through mindfulness, I learned to love those emotions. I learned to open up to those shadow parts of me. I learned to see them with love. And that's when I start practicing self-compassion and kindness. I learned how to open up the book, see them, give them love, and close it back, and knowing that it was okay, that it was okay to feel them and it was necessary. So that's another thing I learned through meditation and through mindfulness, was learning without fear to be with the emotions I didn't want it to before or I wasn't seeing. And that's something again that you might be dealing with, not being able to sit with certain emotions that you know that if you do it, that is going to help you in your levels of personal growth. And the last one was stopping being so reactive. And again, in my 20s, I was, for all kind of childhood upbringing, I was very reactive toward life. And through meditation and obviously to getting into that space of connecting with your thought, emotion, with whatever it is, without judgment as much as possible, I also learned to be less reactive. And I think that the practice of mindfulness and meditation shouldn't just be seeing, oh, this is just for them because they know how to sit for a few minutes. I can't sit never. I just can't. I want to tell you that I will say that most of us can start practicing mindfulness and meditation. Most of us are able to sit with ourselves. The problem is that that uncomfortable part that is make us when we sitting in meditation and just being, that's the part we need to learn to befriend. Because when you do that, that's the quantum leap. That's when you start truly being a good meditator, when you are able to be with whatever it is in that moment that is going on inside of you. So, here were the 7 lessons that meditation and mindfulness taught me and truly helped me so much in my inner work, in my self connection, and in my own healing. And I hope that this helped you. And please share this video with a woman that you know is going to help. Don't forget to click the bell so that you don't miss any of my videos. And I will see you in my next episode.